Nowadays, when you think of Studio Mappa and the anime they have worked on, you think of shows like Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, and Attack on Titan, but what if I told you that back in the day, in 2014, their first major successful anime was about terrorism?
The motorbike scene. Yeah. Do you remember that scene?
No. I remember them being terrorists.
I watched this anime when it was being released every week, but couldn't grasp the deeper meaning behind it all with my underdeveloped brain at the time. The only thing I remembered about the show was exactly the same as what Connor said. It's one of the hidden gems that came out in summer of 2014, overshadowed by bigger household names like Sword Art Online, Tokyo Ghoul, and Akame ga Kill. But with a combination of the director and music composer of Cowboy Bebop, a lot of anime critics saw the potential Zano No Teror had. During the same year, the most relevant post on Twitter was a picture of a bunch of celebrities at the Oscars. The ALS Ice Bucket Challenge was in full effect, where 50 Cent even quote-unquote participated by challenging Floyd Mayweather to read a full page of a Harry Potter book. The My Hero Academia manga debuted in Shonen Jump, placing first in the prestigious Next Manga Awards. And the front page of Crunchyroll used to look like this, before being bought out by Sony in 2017 and ultimately revamping to their new and improved design.
And look at Randy Orton slithering.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
There's a few things I found quite interesting in the 2014 anime season. The anime industry as a whole saw a 10% increase in the total market value. This is mainly due to the rise of anime in general, but leading the charge is Attack on Titan. You can clearly see their impact based on their manga sales, almost exceeding and dethroning One Piece as the top-selling manga of 2014. I also found this poll set by Anime News Network that captured the fans' votes and listed what their top 5 TV anime were. In total, there were 17,000 voters, each having 5 votes, which you might think is not much, but it's still quite a sizable chunk of voters that can give us a general consensus of what the top or most popular anime were in 2014. Starting at the top of the list, we have Parasite, Fate Unlimited Blade Works, No Game No Life, and Tokyo Ghoul, where they all have over 20% of the total voters voting for them, well over 3,000 voters for each of these shows. Just slightly behind them at number 5, the most surprising one to me is Space Dandy. Not because it's a bad show, quite the opposite, but when you think of fan-voted polls, it typically favors shows with a huge following, and you don't really hear Space Dandy's name being thrown around a lot in the community. Next, let's expand this list to the top 10. From what I can see, there doesn't seem to be any surprising standouts. Each one of these shows can make a case at the time when being released to be well received and quite popular, having a ton of fans rave about them. Maybe with a few exceptions, but I'll go more in depth later in this video about those series. Now expanding this list even further to the top 20, surprisingly we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure outside the top 10. Just below that you can see Zano No Teror, which we mentioned earlier during the intro. And it's kinda insane to see these 3, Noragami, Haikyuu, and Your Lie in April being placed where they are on this list, especially when each one of them rank in the top 40 of the most popular anime on my anime list. And right outside the top 20 is the most surprising, not because it's the most popular anime, far from it. It's surprising because of how amazing the show is given its initial perception many anime fans gave it, leading to many of them not giving it a chance, and I was one of them. So what anime am I talking about? It's Ping Pong the Animation. You can see with a stylistic choice and the way it's animated that it can turn a lot of people away from it, but to those who did give it a chance, they were shown and given a spectacular story as well as characters that felt real even though they were just 2D drawings. Both of these characteristics in Ping Pong the Animation are unmatched, and the show itself still holds up to this day. This anime is more than just a sports anime, containing a plethora of other components and elements that elevates it to another level, and if you guys have time, I highly recommend giving this anime a watch. Now that I gave you the general landscape of the status and perception fans had on anime in 2014, I want to see how each one of them stood the test of time, how the perception has changed, and has any of them aged well over the years, not just as an individual anime but as an entire series. And I'm not going to go over every single anime in 2014, only the ones that I believe are somewhat relevant enough to talk about, and this is based on my perception on how the anime community perceives these anime currently. To make it easier and more appealing for you guys to view, I'm going to be placing each anime into one of these 3 separate categories. First category is anime that aged like fine wine, shows that were pretty underrated, but as time went on, more and more fans started to appreciate each and every one of them. Second category is going to be mid, not in the way most anime fans use it nowadays. I'm going to be using it literally. So this category is anime that is properly rated and no different from when it was being aired. And third is anime that aged like spoiled milk. Very self-explanatory. Let's start with anime that age like fine wine. I've already mentioned some of them in this video like Ping Pong the Animation, Space Dandy, and Zano No Teror. But some that I haven't mentioned yet are Haikyuu, Mushishi, and Silver Spoon. Although I want to preface that both Mushishi and Silver Spoon are kinda honorable mentions since both of their first seasons didn't air in 2014, rather their sequels did. And these two are always recommended to me by everyone who has watched them. ProZD, for example, even has both of them in his top 10 anime of all time. Meanwhile, for Haikyuu as a whole series, it has propelled into the stratosphere, becoming one of the most popular and beloved sports anime ever. Moving on to the next category, we have anime that hasn't had a major change in public perception since 2014. Now this list might be the most controversial one out of the three depending on how you look at it. This list is kinda long, so bear with me. On it we have Noragami, Nisekoi, Chunibyo, No Game No Life, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Barakamon, Nozaki-kun, Your Lie in April, Log Horizon, Parasite, Fate Unlimited Blade Works, Shirobako, and Atsuki no Yona. There are many good shows on this list and I could list off even more if I wanted to. The reasoning behind putting them in this category is simply because in 2014 many of them were already highly praised by a ton of fans and nothing has really changed 10 years later. Some may have slightly declined and some may have slightly aged a bit better, but ultimately all of them are around where their starting point was. Next I'm going to be talking about the spoiled milk category. The anime we have in this category are 7 Deadly Sins, Fairy Tail, Aldo no Zero, Tokyo Ghoul, Akame ga Kill, and SAO. The perception for Tokyo Ghoul and Akame ga Kill nearly instantly changed from good to bad when a lot of the adaptation differed from the manga nearing their season finale. Tokyo Ghoul season 2 was a completely different plot from the manga and the entire series is now more known not for its story but its opening and the memes it has created. Akame ga Kill however got the short end of the stick and never got a sequel like many other anime at the time. SAO has more recently gotten better adaptations with Alicization, but it's a little too late to make a comeback with how bad of a taste its first season left in everyone's mind. 7 Deadly Sins famously fell from grace when season 3 rolled around and it completely butchered the animation. Fairy Tail is, well, Fairy Tail, but I'll give credit where credit is due, and the start of Fairy Tail was extremely strong and captivating. It only became more uninteresting the longer the show went on, especially overusing the power of friendship for every single situation there was. I'm not gonna lie, each one of these shows I thoroughly enjoyed at the time I watched it. Even till this day I don't think they're as bad as people make it out to be. Although this category is not seen in the brightest of lights, it's still the most influential out of the three, especially when it comes to SAO starting the isekai boom, inspiring shows like Log Horizon, No Game No Life, and many more that came after it. The release of isekai has continued for as long as I can remember, and I can't think of one season that hasn't had at least one isekai in it. 2014 was the year I started watching anime seasonally, and I've seen the evolution of anime take place with each upcoming season, and each one coming out with more depth of amazing anime due to the sheer amount of it being produced. But that also comes with a caveat where a lot of them are just flat out terrible or average at best. Fast forward to 2024, we have many people throw the phrase "this is peak anime" around kinda willy-nilly. It's hard to look back and appreciate the anime that has paved the way for a lot of shows that we call peak nowadays. This might just be a random year for many fans, but for me it has meaning and holds a special place in my heart. It started my anime journey and I wouldn't have it any other way.